Okay, so let's look at leaning up the scene and causing variation. So right here, the wood texture is good, but I would say that it it looks tiled just a little bit. So I could see this knot, this knot, this knot, several places. I don't think people would look at that too much, but I have some game design nerds that really do look at that stuff quite well. So let's kind of look at thinking about repairing it. Also, if you look over here, this looks correct. This doesn't look correct to me. So this is kind of like the finalization of it and fixing things up and causing some goodness to occur here. All right, so this little area right here, I want to continue that on to right about here. Stretch it out just a little bit. Control E. I'll move that down. So I established some more base texture there first and then use the clone stamp tool. That way you don't hurt resolution. Before you use clone stamp, I would say Control E to merge it down. And if you're getting some of this fall off, see, it's actually occurring from your multiply. So that's from your shadow data, and we don't want to screw that up. Okay, we got some stuff going on right here. So good. So fix that right up. Again, if you just merge it down first before you fix any anomalies. You'll notice if you make the brush too small, you'll get a blurring factor that goes on. This is a soft brush, so you got to be really careful about that. And don't use the clone stamp tool too much. That's from the shadow data on the other one. No, look at up here, it says all layers. Maybe make sure it's on current layer too, and that way you don't get the shadow data interfering with your clone stamp tool. Okay, so now we got those out of the way. Let's look at variation. Okay, so for variation, I use another type of texture. It could be anything really. I'm a big fan of Rust because it has a lot of unique features to it. But again, it's really not one of those things that has a right answer for it. I use this to kind of uniform the colors together to make sure it all matches. And again, don't be too picky here, but look for something that has 2 or 3 colors, not 28 colors. And you're also looking for stuff that's not too contrasty. And I'm being too picky now. So let's go here. Oop. We're stopped by. I like this. We're not worried about size here either, as far as it can be something like that, because what we're going to be doing is uniforming the color based upon this. So I'm going to pop this up, put it on the top layer, and make it as big as the object. Then I'm going to go through and just use my wheel mouse to basically page through the different variation until I get something I'm happy with. A lot of time, like pin light and soft light work really well, where the rest of them really don't do a good job. So I use soft light a lot. Okay, so let's look at what that looks like with it and without. So here is with, here is without. As you can see, it just darkens up everything. Now this is going to make it super contrasty. So another thing I like to do is take that down a notch using a saturation layer, so Hue Saturation, and I'll knock the saturation down just a little bit, because wood is not fluorescent orange. So there we go. Now I'm going to save this as another one just to kind of show you what the difference is. So I'll duplicate this, drag this new texture in, double click on it, double click here to build a real-time preview. I'll make a material. I'll click on that material and click this button. And this is my bake color map 2. Middle mouse button, click and drag it down to default. And then let's apply that to the second object. So you can see the difference, and it is personal preference. Where this right here, this was a different type of texture altogether, the color wasn't too uniformed. So what that rust did was uniform the texture across, and now you can see the ends work out on both sides, and it looks correct. So again, it's personal preference. Another thing you could turn is this down. It doesn't need to be so much. And if I update it like this, I can just quickly update it by saving it over the top, go back to Maya, right click on it and say reload image file. Now you can see the difference. Okay, also while I'm here, I will make a variation of this. And look at that. Double click on it, double click on it here, and then we have Lambert. Here's 3, middle mouse button, click and drag that over to default. Now you can see I'm getting quite a few of these going on, and I should start renaming some of those, but I'm not going to keep most of them. These are just to show you what happens when you lower like the resolution down. Okay, so these are 4096 and this one's 2048. And if I stack it right next to each other, you can kind of see the difference. Here I can see this wood. Here I'm getting a blur factor. So that's the big deal, is now at least I have this very high res version, and I can always go down for the low level of detail version, okay? And I can keep going down that way. Now that's just utilizing as much spaces as possible. Mind you, I could have probably put these over here a little bit and then made them a little bit bigger as far as the UVs are concerned. But as you can see, space is very important. If you can take up as much of this area as possible, you'll cause more and more detail. And then when you lower it down, it's not such a drastic change. Again, you know, sometimes it's easier to show you that right here rather than do it perfect, because really you don't learn from that. Here's what I have. Here's what I could have done to improve. I could have taken up more space here, and that way I could have gotten more detail. So now you know why I didn't do the crate by having all of these tied together, because really if I had the 6 sides and all the UVs here for all 6 sides, it would take up so much space that my resolution would have been completely gone. Alright, so let's move on to the next video.